Visit grizzly.com to see a full line of spiral cutter heads for your machines.
Microjig, maker of the gripper. Work safer, work smarter.
At the bandsaw, I roughed out the corner posts that are going to make up the bookcase, and I cut them to rough length. Now I'm just going to let them acclimate in my shop for a few days to let any internal stresses that may have been present in the lumber relax over those 2 days. Now that these posts have had a chance to rest, I'm going to flatten one face and then square up one adjacent side. With my freshly edge jointed side up against the fence, I'll square up one adjacent side. Now that I have two faces nice and flat and square to each other, I'm going to take the other two faces to the table saw and I'm going to cut them to rough width. Then I'll finish them to their final thickness at the planer. I've finished with the post for now, and I'm turning my attention to the rails and the panels. So what I'm doing now is trying to pick out which lumber I want to use for the rails and which I'd like to use for the panels. Because when I go to make my panels, I'm going to take them and I'm going to resaw them down the middle and make a book match. So I'd like to use the wood that has the most figure, or the most interesting figure for the panels, and use the rest of the lumber for the rails. One advantage to buying skip plane lumber as opposed to lumber that's completely in the rough is that with skip planes you can see the grain a lot easier and you have a better idea of what you're buying. With that nice straight edge on my rail stock, I'm going to rip these to rough width, a little bit oversized. With the rails face jointed and planed to thickness, I just need to edge joint one side and cut them to their final width. With all the rails cut to length, it's time to cut the posts to length. Now, because the stop block on my miter gauge doesn't go out far enough, I had to use a couple clamps and a few pieces of scrap wood. Before I mark for my joinery, I always like to decide which faces I want showing to the front and which faces I'd rather have in the back. For the joinery for this piece, I'm going to use a floating mortise and tenon. And to make all the mortises and all the components, I'm going to use my horizontal mortiser. For my end grain mortises and all my rails, I'm going to again use my horizontal mortiser. I think I'm going to stop part one here, and next time I'll start working on the book matched panels, and I'll start working on the slots to receive the panels. I hope that if you liked what you saw here, you'll consider subscribing. And even if you didn't like it, subscribe anyway. It's free. What's the difference?